Aftershocks, Tremors, we're back here with another episode for you guys where we feature the best new and upcoming hard rock and metal artists on the globe. And today, we're staying right here in the Bay Area from Oakland post-metal doom outfit DAXMA. We've got guitarist vocalist Isaac Rigler with us. Isaac, thanks for coming on. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. Well, let's talk about it, man. DAXMA, you guys, you just put out your sophomore full length. It's titled Unmarked Boxes. It's out now on Blues Funeral Recordings. This record is definitely gaining a lot of buzz, man, and attention, within the post-doom circles. It's very, very talked about. I'll just say that a lot of people are really digging this record. It's your first in about 4 or 5 years now, right?
Since it's been a while for DAXMA. I've actually been making plenty of music in the past few years. Forrest Harvey, who is another member in DAXMA, also plays with me in another local Bay Area band. We're part of Mountaineer. We put out the album Bloodletting a year ago. So we have been part of musical releases, but DAXMA was something we were both part of before. And yeah, it's taken quite a bit, though. I guess our last release and our first time working with Blues Funeral Recordings was the album Ruins Upon Ruins, which was part of the Post-Wax series, along with Elder and a couple other bands that Jad of Blues Funeral had grabbed together.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Well, I mean, yeah, so I guess just give us a brief rundown of, how things are going right now with the release, and I guess what you guys got in the works in order to sort of promote and push this impressive release, where I know right now things are kind of, sketchy still with all the live music and stuff. I mean, what are you guys doing to promote this now?
Well, I mean, the hope is that we eventually get to play some shows to promote it. We definitely would love to play shows, and we recently got back together and we were jamming around the studio, and it had been some time. Unfortunately, all of us have pretty serious careers and lives, so getting that kind of thing coordinated is rather challenging. But I do hope that we're able to play some shows at some point. Beyond that, there are plans for future releases after this. We already have some more recorded material on top of what we released as Unmarked Boxes, and we're looking to solidify that, and eventually we'll be debuting to the world another release at some point. So that's definitely the plan. I will say about all of us is that we really prioritize making the art more than anything else. I don't think any of us have any rock star dreams in our we're really serious about writing music together, and we want, our goal is just to get it in the hands of as many people as possible. So but it's kind of about the music more than we like stuff. But
well, this kind of sound, you guys, I mean, obviously you've got to be about the music when you're playing this kind of music. It's obviously, because it's not about getting up there and being a rock star. It's really for the music, which is great to say, man. Well, let's talk about the current single you guys got out, Ryan, and of course the video you have with it too as well for the track Hiraeth, which essentially, from what I read, it's a Welsh word that refers to being, I guess, essentially homesick.
Yeah, and, no master in Welsh language, but Hiraeth.
Hiraeth, okay.
Hiraeth, yeah.
Okay. Well, I think the video, what's kind of cool about the track and the video is I think the video really does a great job of capturing the overall essence of the song and its sound. I mean,
thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah,
it was a cool process to put the video together. It was shot half by me, local around us, and then half of that actually was shot in Wales.
Oh, really? Wow.
A film producer out there. So we got to collaborate together through overseas and mash up our footage together. Obviously we couldn't, at this time collaborate in person if that's where everyone was located. But yeah, I did end up we were all very happy with the final result of the video.
Okay. Yeah. Well, talk about what the song represents. I mean, because it's obviously, how'd you come up with this word, because like I said, it doesn't really have an English translation. It's it's a really old school Welsh, word. But I mean, what does it represent for you when you were writing this song in terms of, it being that, I guess it's sort of a, like I said, it's like a homesick sort of vibe to it, or a longing of missing one's home or something like that. That's what I.
I'll answer your question indirectly by kind of explaining a little bit on the writing process of just the songs in general on this album.
Okay.
I think of all of the DAXMA releases, the thematic content is probably the most personal to me, as the person who kind of laid the foundational ideas years ago. I see the different tracks kind of as chapters of things I was working through, and the track Heareth, I think, is a chapter that really represents for me reflection on my time growing up in Santa Cruz, California. That's where I'm from, by the way. And just kind of being a teenager out there, and this ended up taking shape after the song was written, but you're no stranger to the same climate as me, that the fires that really decimated a lot of the areas. I ended up revisiting this song quite a bit during that time, and kind of reflect. I don't know. It was one day I was on the beach down by Half Moon Bay and looking at some of the devastation in Big Basin from the fires, and really taking in what this song had meant to me once before, about this longing for a time and place when I was younger that can't be returned to, and kind of processing the feelings around that. So that's one arc in the album, which is really meant as a narrative through the whole album from start to finish.
Okay. Very cool. Well, yeah, I know lyrically on this record, it was a bit of a change from what you've done previously. I know previously
it really was, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know previously you focused more on the political and sort of philosophical messages, but Unmarked Boxes, from what I've seen, is inspired by a 13th century Persian poem. So
yeah, that is true.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess I find that also too with this record. I found, it seems to me it has a bit more hopeful feel in nature, I think, compared to your previous work, which is, I think, a little bit more of that, desolate and doom sort of vibe to it. So I guess talk about, what you were trying to go for lyrically on this record, and what inspired you to write about this poem.
Well, I think one thing people have observed about our music is it's pretty sparse in terms of lyrics and vocals, and despite that there's been 2 to 3 singers at any given time in our band, there aren't a lot of lyrics to speak of. As I was saying, all the lyrics kind of represent a different chapter of my life. In terms of the connection to the 13th century poem by Rumi, Unmarked Boxes, it was something I actually stumbled upon several years ago while I was on a trip in Istanbul. And this album cover is a picture of the Blue Mosque I took from inside the Hagia Sophia. I just stuck my camera up through a window and snapped a photo, and ended up being this photo.
Great.
Yeah. So rather dark, but I ended up narrowly missing a suicide bombing right outside the Blue Mosque the very next day. I was processing a lot of various things in my life at that point. I was, on the one hand, having this amazing vacation in this amazing country. On the other hand, kind of processing a lot of depression and grief that had come up in my life. And I ended up writing the song The Clouds Parted there on the same night that I stumbled upon this poem by Rumi. And, I ended up getting side of it tattooed in Istanbul at some point. So it's just kind of been something that stuck with me. And, it was very different than things DAXMA has done before. As you noticed and research, I'm sure, some of our background is doing kind of more political stuff, philosophical stuff. And when I presented the idea of doing this album around this poem to the bandmates, they were really receptive. They were really into it. But it was a change. It was presenting the idea about doing something that was kind of more personal and about emotions and feelings, both starting in a place of hopelessness and then kind of moving towards hope.
Yeah, and you can definitely sense that, that feel and that sort of just overall ambiance on the record, like you just said. So, I mean, I'm just going to, go back to something you just talked about in terms of the vocals. Like you said, you've got 3 different members who do contribute vocally. Yeah. And what I find interesting is, just as a listener, I mean, what's really cool about that is I never know who's going to come in, and like you said, it's not like there's a ton of vocals on it, but when it does, it's sort of like, you just don't know what to expect, which is, I always like that because it sort of keeps the listeners on your toes. And it's like I said, just that anticipation of what's coming. So how do you guys decide who sings, when, where, and when you're writing these songs? Is it just sort of like you just get into a room and figure it out, or how does it work?
To clarify, on this album, there's only 2 vocalists. It's myself and Jessica. On earlier versions, we had another member, and we were able to. Am I still with you?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
On earlier albums, we had another member, and there was 3 of us doing vocals. You know, with this album and with our previous work, it really kind of worked itself out without us having a long discussion about it. We all just kind of gravitated towards something that felt like ours. I mean, in the case of this album, I'm the primary vocalist, I call it that, on The Clouds Parted. And a lot of that to me just had to do with me telling Jessica and the other band member, you know, I just told you the story of how it relates to my own life. And I felt like that really needed to be my words. Whereas Kirith was something that Jessica just really connected to. And that was, you know, as we were messing around with writing it, it was clear that her vocal performance was just perfect for it and really encapsulated the energy and feel for that song. With Anything You Lose, I think we equal parts sing that. And, you know, I mean, the thing about the vocals in the band, it's never been about the vocals. We treat the vocals not unlike any other instrument that would be a part of, you know, our album. And we only want to put it where we think it belongs, which I know I've read some reviews of our album. They're like, more vocals, you know, bands have vocals and I don't know what you guys are doing. You're teasing us with it, but you know, we've made the art we wanted to make with that. And I think we've said on this album what we wanted to say.
Sure. No doubt. You know, and one of the things that's really interesting, I think, about your guys' sound is, you know, this kind of music seems like, you know, like it would be more inspired by artists who live, you know, in and around places that are very dark and cold. You know, like it's sort of a change of season type of music, like from autumn to winter. It reminds me, you know, just growing up on the East Coast, it reminds me of, you know, when those season changes would happen in November, December sort of vibe. And when, you know, it's really transitioning into winter, it has just sort of that real dark feel. And obviously right here in the Bay Area, it doesn't get too cold or too dark compared to most places. So, I mean, how are you guys really able to channel the dark and desolate sound sonically that you would typically hear from, you know, bands, say, in Northern Europe or, you know, that have sort of that Euro folk type of vibe?
Yeah. I mean, I know our climate doesn't necessarily reflect it. In terms of musicianship, one of my backgrounds before I was playing in DAXMA and before I was playing in the other band Mountaineer, my background of all things is actually in black metal. I played in a black metal band called Leucosis for many years in my young 20s. So I kind of had some familiarity with that dark, and I don't even want to say familiarity, is like that's how I expressed my art, was kind of through melodic minor riffs, and you know, I had already kind of grown accustomed to that. I see that other people are picking up the seasonal part with it, and I myself am guilty of thinking, well, I know this isn't good summertime metal music, because I like to listen to happy summertime metal music. And I know Blues Funeral had it on their minds. You know, it's been recorded for a while. They've had it in their hands for a while. And after discussion, we thought it might be something people connect most with in a season like this, rather than June kind of release.
Exactly.
But yeah, I can definitely see how people are seeing the changes in the cycle through it, and because there is a lot of shifting in energy from start to finish.
Okay. Yeah. No, it definitely, like I said, it's as the first thing that just came to my mind is just like, it sounds, like I said, more of a, it's got, definitely that sort of, you know, real, like I said, transitioning to winter feel, but like you said, you know, not too much of that around, but which is what I find really interesting, because like I said, it's hard to channel, I think, things like that when you're in a real sunny place like California, although it gets a little.
My black metal roots, just
it's a black metal stuff, right? Okay. Well, I mean, I was gonna ask you about that. You know, like you said, you were in a band Leucosis, which, I mean, it definitely has a doom post metal vibe, but like you said, it's really black metal. The bass, when I was listening to it, and I always find it interesting how musicians who play like this style of music, like you do with DAXMA, how you choose to get into this kind of sound rather than just playing, you know, straight up black metal, straight up doom metal, you know, because it's definitely a style that not every, you know, hard rock and metal fan kind of can get into. You know, they usually like the more mid upper, you know, tempo, type of stuff. And if they like it slower, they usually sort of just go towards just the heavy doom and sludge stuff. So what is it about this kind of sound that really attracts you to what you want to do and accomplish, you know, as an artist, compared to playing, you know, some of the just more straight up, you know, subgenre type of music like you do in Leucosis?
You know, I am a metalhead, obviously, and I've listened to metal for years and years of my life now. But I'd have to say the number one artist who has had the most influence on me since I was about 14 years old was Godspeed You Black Emperor.
Okay.
And I'm picking that band as a kind of means to answer your question there, and that's to say I've never, in any band I've ever been in, sat down and thought to myself, oh, I want to be in a black metal band, or oh, I want to be in a doom metal band, or a post metal band, or I've just kind of written what I've written, maybe influenced by the things I've listened to. Love-hate relationship with Smashing Pumpkins, but I definitely learned chords from Billy Corgan when I was young, and those translated into a lot of my playing as I got older. I've never made a conscientious decision about it, but I know which artists have influenced me, and in DAXMA in particular, Godspeed, Neurosis, and Sub Rosa, which are also all bands, really quintessential in their own genres, but kind of putting their art first before trying to fit into a label or anything like that. And that's kind of what I think all of us in DAXMA aspire to do, is put the art first. And if people like it, they like it. And it seems like people are liking this one. So I'm happy for that. And we all are.
Sure. Yeah. You just brought up Sub Rosa, which, like I said, that's probably I would say the best comparison to what you guys sound like, because obviously a lot of the violin influence as well, which I know that they have. Yeah. And, and that's something, obviously, violin, you don't hear that too much in rock or metal music. Although, I think you guys, compared to them, definitely have more of a dark ambience, though. They have a dark ambience, but they're a little bit more, I think, have a little more traditional doom sound to them as well, where I think you guys definitely have a more ambient sound. So, now musically, on this record, compared, like you said, we talked about what you guys wanted to do, what you did previously on the past stuff. What musically were you trying to keep it, in around the same scope as you usually do on this one? Or were there some things you wound up exploring with and experimenting on that you didn't do before?
You know what? The truth of this album, which I don't think I've revealed in any source yet, and I don't even know that our label totally knows it, is that a lot of the material is really, really old. Like, I began writing The Clouds Parted early 2017. It's not stuff we recently wrote. And we actually wrote almost the entire album before our last release, Ruins Upon Ruins, in 2018. So for us, it's just songs that have been evolved and worked on throughout years. But again, I don't think there was any kind of conscientious, like, we're going to write in this direction, we're going to take it here, we're going to do something different than we did before. We're kind of, it's just what came out. And I think it also is what came out of our collaboration and our growth together as a band. That was one of the main reasons for delaying working on this second full length and wanting to do an EP first, is I feel like we needed to keep working into being in a musical relationship with each other. Along the time that we were writing The Head Which Becomes the Skull, Jessica and Forrest were pretty new in my life, and I was maybe trying to orchestrate everyone's parts a little bit more myself. And by the time we were working on this album, I completely let all control for their parts go to them. And, we all just, the songs ended up becoming, even if they started with foundational riffs from me, they ended up becoming something that we had all kind of put our spin on.
Okay.
Very cool. And it wasn't really a discussion.
Just that happened. That's cool, man. Yeah. Well, no, you just talked about, like you said, your last EP. What I loved about that record, or the one song that really stuck out to me, was the cover you guys did for Landslide Fleetwood Mac. And it's cool because it reminded me sort of how, like, I remember, like, how I remember Typo Negative when they covered Summer Breeze, a Seals and Crofts song. It had that just really, you guys just really slowed it down immensely. And it really just had a very unique. Yeah, just really unique. Talk about why, I guess, you guys chose to cover that song and how you approached it, because, like I said, I thought that was really interesting how you guys covered that. Yeah.
Well, as I said, at that point in our lives, we were already working on the material for Unmarked Boxes. And in terms of the track Landslide, it's kind of two answers here. One, it's for my mom. I wanted to do it for my mom. Landslide is her favorite song, and she has a tattoo of a woman on an island looking at a landslide. She's an islander, and you know, so it was always kind of part of her life and part of growing up. I just heard that song immensely. But the idea to do a doom metal cover of it came to me in kind of a dream I had one day about, I don't know, I had a dream that I was at my grandfather's funeral and we played some cover of Landslide and there was some like earthquake. And I was like, I woke up at 3 a.m. that night and I just tried to write what I had heard in my dream. That's the origin of the song Landslide.
Oh, very cool. That's awesome, man. Yeah. Like I said, you guys did a great job on that. So, I mean, you know, like I said, we talked about it earlier. Obviously, like you were saying, you know, right now, you guys, I know, are just focusing really, you know, on the music. Obviously, getting this record out into, you know, as many hands as possible, as you said. So, I mean, what is, I guess, the plan now going forward for the band? You guys, are you going to play live locally here in the Bay Area? Or are you going to do maybe small little tours that you can? Or yeah,
I do hope that we get to play live locally. I've been in talks, so there's no tour plans at the moment. I've been in talks with another artist from the Bay Area who actually we knew each other in high school and we're both releasing albums at the same time. Chantel of Illudium just released a great album on Prophecy Records, and you know, we've kind of been talking to each other and about collaborating on, you know, a show or something like that. And we're part of a sea of, you know, artists working together. Mountaineer for Forrest and I is still playing music, and we're releasing a new album at some point in February. So I'll be around in the Bay Area playing music, but we don't have any, you know, tour plans or anything. I think the most concrete plans for DAXMA at this moment in time is to figure out what we're going to do with the rest of the material that didn't make its way onto Unmarked Boxes that we've recorded, and we do intend for a release down the road.
Okay. Very cool, man. All right, well, awesome. Yeah, so the album is Unmarked Boxes. The band is DAXMA. Isaac, go ahead and just tell the viewers and listeners where they can go to keep up with you guys, check up on what you're up to, and, you know, where they can purchase merch and your records and all that good stuff.
Oh, thank you so much for that. You know, I'm terrible at the social media side of things, but we have a Facebook and Instagram, and we really are appreciative to Blues Funeral Recordings. And also, it was a joint release with Majestic Mountain Records. So please go follow them as well. They're really, really hardworking people who really do a lot to support music. So you can follow those pages, and yeah, keep posted. We'll be releasing stuff in the future, and we'll give updates as they come.
Awesome. All right. Once again, the band is DAXMA. Unmarked Boxes is the new LP. And Isaac, man, thanks so much for coming on Aftershocks, and good luck with the record. And yeah, hope to see you out there playing pretty soon.
Thank you so much for having me, Matt.
All right, Isaac. Thanks, bud.